As we head into October to kick off Q4, I wanted to take you back in time to something you may have lost perspective on, which is what exactly goes down into Q4 in the markets, especially with earnings season kicking off and more. So I'm HEMA ready. I use price action, candlesticks like these, market timing, that's forecasting, and momentum. This is my favorite indicator, the RSI power zones down below, to boost my trading and that of our tribes. So here's what I want to bring your attention to. The pandemic. Yes, that crazy time that led to the market action you see here. So on the SPY ETF, we had this fall into late March 2020 and then a blast off. Now what happened that October? Well, there's just a little bit of consolidation. Nothing earth-shattering, but the market corrected lower into September and then started to resume higher. And this is the fascinating thing about October. While there are a few Octobers that we can all remember that were horrendous, okay, the ones in history written down, 1929, maybe you were alive for 1987. I was approximately 8 years old, so I was alive but unaware. And then we have a few other times after that where we had some weakness in Octobers, but overall, on average, looking all the way back to the 1920s, October's a pretty good month. Get some good gains out of it. So let's look at the rest of the October since then, right? Got 2020 we just looked at, here's 2021. In 2021, there was a little bit of weakness in the beginning of the month, stabilized and recovered higher. So it's basically shown that it has been a turning point and respecting the recent trend. After that in 2022, we had a little bit more of a dip. So there was weakness in September and then a little bit more of a turnaround later in October, again showing that similar pattern, forming a price low with a capital P. And this time it was counter trend. There had been a downtrend since the beginning of 2022 and that recovery. Now let's look at where we are coming into 2023 ahead of the 2024 that's about to unfold. So our last piece of history here. We had a little bit of weakness in September, continued in October. So this was one of those situations where October was weak overall and then started to see some recovery in November. All right. So knowing that funky history of October, what do we do coming into current times? Well, let me bring us forward and let's just follow the trend. So we had an uptrend since October 2023 on the SPY ETF, a higher low in January of 2024, then again in April, then again in August, and here we are at new highs. Do you see how looking at the chart from a few years ago and then coming to the front, it updates your perspective, right? You don't get so biased to be top picking or seeking a bottom. Now, with the current action on this weekly chart, I'm going to go down a time frame and look at what the daily chart's telling us, again, as we get ready to enter October, which is a very interesting month, which I think will be even more interesting, given that it's the last full month before the elections on November 5th. Here's my daily chart. Yes, it has a lot going on, and every one of these annotations has meaning to it. They fall within my categories of price action, market timing, or momentum. So we came into some price sub-targets. That's actually the inner levels inside of forecast, and those capped price action last week. I did a video where I talked about how the support at 560, 517, so long as it holds, bulls might be in position to renew, and that's exactly what happened here on Monday, September 30th. Now, they still would need to break above the most recent high at 574.71 to then be on their way, ideally seeking the 590 to 595 area. So if you're trading the SPY, keep an eye on that 565 support with a broader outlook for the market to continue to move higher into October. Now, this looks different than the past Octobers I showed you, and that's because September, which is generally historically weak in the markets, wasn't so weak here in 2024. You can see we're ended at new highs practically. So when you are considering seasonality of markets and specific months, you have to always look about what's the current trend and does it make sense that that seasonality should still follow. All right. Now, the one thing to be a little on guard for is that the momentum. So again, the RSI power zones is an amazing indicator. I've had many traders come and tell me how it gives them a heads up on market turns better than anything else. So I highly recommend you dive into your education on it. I have everything from ebooks to full-blown courses for all levels as well as advanced. You'll hear more about that this week. And what I really want you to look at is the two things that the RSI power zones give you are a value. So you can see right here, 64.80. So that's between 0 and 100. But they also give you a location. Once you learn how to understand the value and the location, which I teach in my basic ebooks, then you can start looking at patterns, because the patterns are a little bit more reliable for taking trades on the RSI power zones. So let's bring this down to the 240-minute chart of the SPY and see what more information this shows us. So here's the 240-minute chart, and right now the RSI power zones have done what I call working off overbought conditions. They have moved back to the key bull support power zone, which is an area that when there's an uptrend in price, the RSI tends to be oversold there. So instead of getting oversold all the way at the bottom, like below the traditional 30 level, the RSI power zones get oversold at a higher platform. Think of it as having like a trampoline that's supporting the RSI so that momentum is jumping off of that trampoline instead of hitting the ground first. So this is an indication that the market is likely to trade higher. However, note that there has been recent peaks here at 73 and 72.93. And in my advanced RSI power zone system, I teach you how to not only look at the RSI power zones indicator, but look at how it's behaving compared to itself for your particular market that you trade. And this is where you'll start to get more insights to get an even faster heads up before any market potential changes. So that's where we're at. We've got key levels holding. 565.17 is still the one to watch. We have a brief pause that we had in the market. Is there room for a top to unfold here? Let's finish out by looking at the VIX. So here's the 60-minute chart of the VIX. That's right, I jumped ahead. I didn't even go to the daily chart, because on the daily chart, there's this trend line intersection that came through, and the VIX closed above it on Friday. That fueled some of the weakness, and then we saw it come back into this range from September 18th. But check it out on this 60-minute time frame. All it did was retrace, give back half, or get back half of the losses off the September 18th high. And on the VIX, okay, so which is a volatility index, so it's moving opposite the stock market. Check this out. We had a peak here at 79.03, and the last peak was 77.49. So this latest upsurge in the VIX could already have come and gone and done its thing. The key is to watch if it continues to push lower after retracing this 17.15 level, or if it consolidates and then has another attempt higher. I wouldn't be surprised if the VIX had one more push higher towards 1806, and if that happens, that would measure up to a bit more weakness on the SPY after a retest of the highs. All right, so keep an eye on all those factors there. The price action, right, the candlesticks themselves, it's the most important. The market timing, any forecasting tools you use of mine, and really the RSI power zones are so critical, especially when you're coming into themes like this, where there's seasonality and you want to be respectful of it, but you want to trade what you see on the charts, right? Not preconceived notions, not biases. So if you found value in this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to see more like it or have any questions or comments, please drop those in the comment section down below. That helps give me feedback on what more to teach you guys out there. So let's see how we finish out September, kick off October, and I'll catch you soon.